Good evening, good evening. Giving praise to the Heavenly Father God, God of Israel. Um, Thank you for tuning into my YouTube channel. Uh, my wife is here with me, so she's gonna sit in here with me now. Today's video is talking about the law do not involve in witchcraft, etc., and a prophecy of doing away with soothsayer. So this is the biggest thing about what our people refuse to listen to is being obedient to the law. So the thing is this: for all you brothers and sisters out there who like to deal with for all you brothers and sisters who like to deal with all this stuff like the Ouija board, the gypsy, reading palms, and so forth, this and that, right? This is what you finna find out what the Father says, not to deal with necromancers and so forth, not to involve ourselves in any type of witchcraft or none whatsoever. So in this video, you're gonna read about the laws, about what the Father told us not to do. So with all you people that went to Toys R Us to go get that Ouija board and not realize that you was dealing with witchcraft, who went up in the washroom and said 10 times Mary Jane or calling on Sandman and so forth. This is everything what the Father tell us not to deal with. Right. So I know a lot of people don't like to listen to the law, but the thing is this, right? In the end, you cannot go back into the land if you are not being obedient to the law. So for brothers and sisters, that what he said that who he his ear that turned away from the law, what it says in Proverbs 20, he said, he who turns his ear from hearing the law, even his prayer should become an abomination. So he lets you know that when you turn your ear from hearing the law, he said even your prayer will be an abomination, right? So this is for brothers and sisters who feel as though that listening to the law, listening to the word of the Creator is a problem, right? Because it's coming down to it like what we dealing with in the end times, where the Father tells you he gonna do away with witchcrafts, all type of sorcery that men do. So what I want to do is, right, I want to let's deal with this, right? I'm gonna deal with the prophecy first, and therefore we could go back and forth and deal with the laws. When you read from Isaiah, the 2nd chapter, and we could read from 6 through 8, right? It says, therefore thou hast forsaken thy people, the house of Jacob, because they be replenished from the east and are soothsayers, like the Philistines, and they please themselves in the children of strangers. So this is what I was saying. Oh, I just came on the live, Sharon. I just came on. How you doing? Right. Right. So basically this is talking about that the Philistines, they was dealing with witchcraft and so forth, and you're gonna find out other nations were dealing with it as well. So it says their land also is full of silver and gold, neither is there any end of their treasures. Their land is also full of horses, neither is there any end of their chariots. Their land also is full of idols. They worship the works of their own hand, that which their own fingers have made. Now check this out. When you talking about the soothsayers, we talking about witchcraft, and this is what our Father told us not to involve ourselves in. When you look according to the law, this is Isaiah 28, verse 10, where he said, precept must be upon precept, precept upon precept, line upon line, line upon line, here a little, there a little, right? Now, in Exodus 22 and 18, the law said, thou shalt not suffer a witch to live. We look at Leviticus 19 and 31, regard not them that have familiar spirits, neither seek out the wizards to be defiled by them. I am the Lord your God. Leviticus 20, verse 27, a man also or a woman that have a familiar spirit or that is a wizard shall surely be put to death. They shall store them with stones, their blood shall be upon them. We look at Leviticus 20, verse 6 says, and the soul that turneth after such as have familiar spirits. This is what people was doing when they was calling on the ancestors. Where you see the Indians, where they was praying to the ancestors. What was that dude name? I forgot his name, but he's supposed to be having a school up in Chicago, and he was calling on Harriet Tubman. I forgot his name, but he was into that witchcraft, that soothsaying stuff, where he was calling on familiar spirits. When you talk about familiar spirits, you're talking about calling on the ancestors, right? So Leviticus 20, verse 6 says, and the soul that turneth after such as our familiar spirit and after wizards to go a whoring after them, I will even set my face against that soul and will cut him off from among his people. Deuteronomy 18, verse 10, there shall not be found among you anyone that maketh his son or daughter to pass through the fire, or use divination, or observers of times, or enchanters, or witch. Now take this out, right? I want to show you according to what he says to the law and to the testimony, right? When you look according to Deuteronomy 6, verse 17 and 18, you shall diligently keep the commandments and the testimony which I command you, and then you shall do what's right and good in the sight of the Lord, that it may be well with thee, that you may go and possess the land which I have sworn unto your fathers. Now check this out. When it says right here about witchcraft and so forth, right? I want to show you a testimony of something what King Saul did in 1 Samuel 28, and see what was his judgment when he had contacted a witch, right? This 1 Samuel 28. This is a testimony according to the law. Right here it says, like, and it came to pass in those days that the Philistines gathered their armies together for warfare to fight with Israel, and Achish said unto David, know thou assuredly that thou shalt go out with me to battle, thou and thy men, right? And David said to Achish, surely thou shalt know what thy servant can do. And Achish said to David, therefore will I make the keepers of my head forever. Now check this out. Now listen to this. It says in verse 3, now Samuel was dead, and all Israel had lamented, even in his own city. And Saul had put away those that had familiar spirits and the wizards out of the land. And the Philistines gathered themselves together and came and pitched in Shunem. And Saul gathered all Israel together, and they pitched in Gilboa. And when Saul saw the host of the Philistines he was afraid and his heart greatly trembled. And when Saul inquired the Lord answered them not, neither by dreams, nor by Urim, nor by prophets. Now, check this out. We finna find out what Saul got himself involved into and see what judgment came upon him for doing what he did, that he went against the law. It said, then said Saul unto his servant, seek me a woman that have a familiar spirit, that I may, right here, he said, that I may go to her and inquire of her. And the servant said to him, behold, there is a woman that have a familiar spirit at Endor. And Saul disguised himself and put on other raiments. And he went and 2 men with him. And they came to the woman by night. And he said, I pray thee, divine unto me by the familiar spirit, and bring me him up, whom I shall name unto thee. And the woman said unto him, behold, thou knowest that what Saul hath done, how he have cut off those that have familiar spirit. This is what he was talking about. He was killing witches, right? He said, and the woman said unto him, behold, thou knowest what Saul hath done, how he have cut off those that have familiar spirits and the wizards out of the land. Wherefore then layest thou a snare for my life to cause me to die? And Saul swore to her by the Lord, saying, as the Lord liveth, there shall no punishment happen to thee for this thing. Then said the woman, whom shall I bring up unto thee? And he said, bring me up Samuel. So he was trying to get her to bring Samuel back, to know what was going to happen to him in the end time, because he said that the Father's spirit had no longer spoken with him. He said, and the woman saw Samuel, she cried with a loud voice, and the woman spake to Saul, saying, why hast thou deceived me? For thou art Saul. And the king said unto her, be not afraid, for what sawest thou? And the woman said unto her, Saul. He said, I saw gods ascending out of the earth. And he said unto her, what form is he of? And she said, an old man cometh up, and he is covered with a mantle. And Saul perceived that it was Samuel. And he stooped with his face to the ground and bowed himself. And Samuel said to Saul, why hast thou disquieted me to bring me up? Now, this was what Samuel said. He said, why hast thou disquieted me to bring me up? And Saul answered, I am sore distressed, for the Philistines make war against me. And God is departed from me and answered me no more, neither by prophet nor by dreams. Therefore I have called thee, that thou mayest make known unto me what I shall do. Then said Samuel, wherefore then doest thou ask of me, seeing the Lord is departed from thee, and is become thy enemy? And the Lord hath done to him as he spake by me. For the Lord hath rented the kingdom out of thy hand, and given it to thy neighbor, even to David, because thou obeyest not the voice of the Lord, nor executed his fierce wrath upon Amalek. Therefore hath the Lord done this thing unto thee this day. Moreover, the Lord will also deliver Israel with thee into the hands of the Philistines, and tomorrow shalt thou and thy son be with me. The Lord also shall deliver the host of Israel into the hands of the Philistines. Then Saul fell straightway all along on the earth, and was sore afraid because of the word of Samuel. And there was no strength in him, for he had eaten no bread all the day, nor all the night. And the woman came unto Saul, and saw that he was sore troubled, and saw unto him, behold, thy handmaid have obeyed thy voice, and I have put my life in my hand, and have hearkened unto thy words, which thou spake unto me. Now check this out. Saul contacted a witch to bring back the spirit of Samuel in order to know what was to take place with him, because the Father's spirit had left Saul. So he was so afraid. Now, when he contacted Samuel's spirit and he asked him what was going to happen to him, he said that the Philistines was going to fall upon them, right? And this is what he said right here. He said, the Lord also should deliver the host of Israel into the hand of the Philistine. Now, when you see this, right, this is exactly what Samuel prophesied against Saul in 1 Samuel 31 when he died. Right? He said, now the Philistines fought against Israel, and the men of Israel fled from before the Philistine and fell down slain in Mount Gilboa. And the Philistine followed hard upon Saul and upon his sons, and the Philistines slew Jonathan and Abinadab and Melchishua, Saul's son, and the battle went sore against Saul, and the archers hit him, and he was sore wounded of the archers. Then said Saul unto his armor bearer, draw thy sword and thrust me through therewith, lest these uncircumcised come and thrust me through and abuse me. But his armor bearer would not, for he was sore afraid. Therefore Saul took a sword and fell upon it. And when his armor bearer saw that Saul was dead, he fell likewise upon his sword and died with him. So check this out. This is the same prophecy what you just read in 1 Samuel 28, where Samuel said what was going to happen to Saul, because according to the law, it tells you that you're supposed to die dealing with witchcraft, right? So when we understand this, right, he said, according to the laws, he said, Deuteronomy 18:10, there shall not be found among you anyone that maketh son. Okay, we're not going to go right there. I'm going to take this right to the other one. It says, Leviticus 28:6, and the soul that turneth after such I have familiar spirits and after wizards to go whoring after them, I will even set my face against that soul and will cut him off from among his people. So this is what happened to Saul dealing with witchcraft. So when you look at Exodus 20:18, thou shalt not suffer a witch to live. But he said that this is what Saul was doing during the time he was king. He was killing all the witches and wizards and so forth that was in the land. And the witch was afraid that she thought that Saul was coming to kill her. But he said he made a covenant with her that as long as the Lord lived, that she wasn't going to be punished. And what happened was they contacted Samuel's spirit, and Samuel prophesied death unto Saul and his sons. So when you look at Leviticus 19:31, regard not them that have familiar spirits, neither seek after wizards to be defiled by them. I am the Lord your God. Leviticus 20:27, a man or a woman that have a familiar spirit or that is a wizard shall surely be put to death. They shall stone them with stones, their blood shall be upon them. So the Father tells you, we are not to engage in witchcraft. So when y'all was going to Toys R Us and y'all was over here buying these Ouija boards, people was over here talking to Miss Cleo, over here dealing with these little gypsies and so forth, you was involving yourself with witchcraft. And this is what the Father says is an unforgivable sin, because he tells us not to deal with these types of things, right? So that was the judgment that came upon Saul for dealing with witchcraft. Now, when you get to right here, Deuteronomy 18:10, it said, there shall not be found among you anyone that maketh his son or daughter, his daughter to pass through the fire, or use divination, or observer of times, or enchanters, or a witch, or a charmer, or a consulter with familiar spirits, or a wizard, or a necromancer. Now, check this out. Like, I'm going to show you another testimony and show you what King Manasseh was doing during the time that he was king, what he was involved himself. And this is a testimony according to the law, Deuteronomy 18:10 and 11. And you see, he said, for all that do these things are an abomination unto the Lord. And because of these abominations, the Lord thy God do drive them out before thee. Thou shalt be perfect with the Lord thy God. For these nations where thou shalt possess, hearken unto observers of time and unto diviners. But as for thee, the Lord thy God hath not suffered thee to do so. Leviticus 19:26, ye shall not eat anything with blood, neither shall ye use enchantments nor observe time. Now check this out. We finna go to King Manasseh. And this is in 2 Kings 21. And we can see what King Manasseh was doing. Right here, it says, Manasseh was 12 years old when he began to reign, and reigned 50 and 5 years in Jerusalem, and his mother's name was Hezebah. And he did that which was evil in the sight of the Lord after the abomination of the heathen, whom the Lord cast out before the children of Israel. For he built up against the high places which Hezekiah his father had destroyed, and he reared up altars for Baal and made a grove, and did Ahab king of Israel and worshiped all the hosts of heaven and served them. He built altars in the house of the Lord, of which the Lord said, in Jerusalem will I put my name. And he built altars for all the hosts of heaven in the true courts of the house of the Lord. And he made his sons pass through the fire and observed times and used enchantments and dealt with familiar spirits and wizards. He wrought much wickedness in the sight of the Lord to provoke him to anger. Now, this is what he just said in Deuteronomy 18, verse 10 and 11. He said, there shall not be found among you anyone that maketh his son or daughter to pass through the fire, or use divination, or observers of time, of enchantments of a witch, or a charmer, or consultant with familiar spirits, or a wizard, or a necromancer. This is exactly what King Manasseh was doing, right? He said, and he set a graven image of the grove that he made in the house, of which the Lord said to David and to Solomon his son, in this house and in Jerusalem, which I have chosen out of all the tribes of Israel, will I put my name forever. Neither will I make the feet of Israel move anymore out of the land which I gave their fathers, only if they will observe to do according to all that I have commanded them, and according to the law that my servant Moses commanded them. But they hearkened not, and Manasseh seduced them to do more evil than did the nation whom the Lord destroyed before the children of Israel. And the Lord spake by his servant the prophet, saying, because Manasseh the king of Judah hath done these abominations, and hath done wickedly above all the Amorites did which were before him, and I made Judah also to sin with its idols. Therefore thus saith the Lord God of Israel, behold, I am bringing such evil upon Jerusalem and Judah, that whosoever heareth of it, both his ears shall tingle, and I will stretch over Jerusalem the line of Samaria and the plummet of the house of Ahab, and I will wipe Jerusalem as a man wiping his dish, wiping it and turning it upside down. And I will forsake the remnant of my inheritance and deliver them into the hands of their enemies. They shall become a prey and a sport to their enemies. Now, this is what the Father said. What he said? He said, thou shalt be perfect with the Lord thy God, for these nations which thou shalt possess, hearken unto observers of times and unto diviners. But as for thee, the Lord thy God not suffer thee to do so. Ye shall not eat. What he says, for all that do these things are an abomination unto the Lord, and because of these abominations, the Lord thy God do drive them out before thee. So this is what happened to Manasseh. He was sold to the Assyrians, which sold them to Babylon. And you will see this in 2 Chronicles 33. And this will tell you what, that Manasseh ended up hearkening unto the Lord and asking for forgiveness, that he was able to come back to the land and do away with the altars and the groves that he had put up in the land of Israel, in the high places. You see what I'm saying? He allowed his children to pass through the fire. He was sacrificing his children unto other gods. And that's what you look up in Deuteronomy 12 and 31, right here. The law states right here. In Deuteronomy 12 and 31. It says, thou shalt not do so unto the Lord thy God, for every abomination to the Lord which he hateth have they done unto their gods, for even their sons and their daughters they are burnt in the fire to their gods. This was King Manasseh was doing, just as well as King Ahab was did. when you look up in 2 Kings 16 chapter and Isaiah 7, you can see what Ahab, this is why Ahab's name was mentioned in the chapter where it's speaking about Manasseh. Because he did the same thing what Ahab did. He was making altars to other deities. He was sacrificing his children unto the other deities, burning them in fire. You see what I'm saying? He was into idolatry. So these was the testimonies that you could go back into the law and see what they was doing. So again, when you think about what's going on in the world today, people go deal with these Ouija boards. They go consult with these psychics. Yep, these psychics, SootheSayers, gypsies, whatever you want to call them. This was what Israel was doing. So now I want to read to you the prophecy where it said, he tells you right here in Isaiah 2:18, and the idols he shall utterly abolish. Isaiah 2:20, in that day a man shall cast his idols of silver and his idols of gold, which they made each one for himself to worship, to the moles and to the bats. He let you know he's going to do away with the idols, which Israel was, what you look every time Israel was making idols and was serving them, was bowing down to them. As he said in this Deuteronomy 4:28. He said, and there ye shall serve gods, the works of men's hand, wood and stone, which neither see nor hear, nor eat, nor smell. And this was Israel was doing. So the thing is this, right? Whether you want to believe that Christ is not an idol, he is an idol. Because when you read in the Old Testament, his name is nowhere mentioned. He is not from the line of David. He is not the Son of God. He is not God, none whatsoever. Because when you read in the Old Testament, his name is not even mentioned. Where do he come from? Somebody had to make him up. So this is what the Father said he was going to do away with. Isaiah chapter 8, verse 19 and 20 said, and when they shall say unto you, seek unto them that have familiar spirits, and unto the wizards that peep, and that murder, should not a people seek unto their God? To the law and to the testimony, if they speak not according to this word, it is because there is no light in them. So in the end time, people are going to know the law, and you're going to have false prophets that are going to speak against the law, and then they're going to be stoned. And this is what he's talking about in the end time. Because look what he says right here in Zechariah 13 and 2, 3 and 4, right? Check this out. It says, and it shall come to pass in that day, saith the Lord of hosts, that I will cut off the names of the idols out of the land. That means you ain't going to hear no more about Jesus. You ain't going to hear no more about Allah, nothing about Buddhists, nothing about none of them. It said, and the names of the idols out of the land, and they shall no more be remembered. And also I will cause the prophets and the unclean spirits to pass out of the land. Right? And it says, and it shall come to pass that when any shall yet prophesy, then his father and his mother that shall begat him shall say unto him, thou shalt not live, for thou speakest lies in the name of the Lord. And his father and his mother that begat him shall thrust him through when he prophesied. And it shall come to pass in that day that the prophet shall be ashamed, every one of his prophesied. Neither shall they wear a rough garment to deceive. Micah 5 out of thy hand, and thou shalt have no more soothsayers. This is what the Father said. This is what he's talking about, purging the wickedness. When you look up and when he said in Zechariah 13, verse 8 and 9, when he telling you about the fiery furnace, This is what you're talking about, doing away with the wickedness. Anybody talk, that's why he tells you, say, I'm going to judge you according to your ways. If you don't know the law, how do you know what it is that you are doing wrong and what is that you're being judged for if you don't study the law? How can you know what you're being judged for? Right. Zechariah 89, and it shall come to pass that in all the land, saith the Lord, 2 parts therein shall be cut off and die, but the third shall be left in, and I will bring the third part through the fire, and will refine them as silver is refined, and will try them as gold is tried. They shall call on my name, and I will hear them. I will say, it is my people, and they shall say, the Lord is my God. So, for you people that claim to be Christians, who claim to be Muslims, who claim to be Mormons, who claims to be Buddhists, you really need to go back and read the Word of God and see what is the exact will of the Father, because the fact is this. The Father said he gave us a heritage. Psalm 61, verse 5. I think is Psalms 129 and 3. It's a lot more, but those are the ones that I'm familiar with. The Father said he gave us a heritage, even when he told us that we was going to discontinue from our heritage, right? So the factor is this. If you disregard the law, how can you know what you're being judged for if you disregard the law? That's why the same thing what I quoted up in Deuteronomy 6, verse 17 and 18. That's why Isaiah said, to the law and to the testimony, if they speak not of these words, is because there is no light in them. You people who do not study the law do not know what you are being judged for. How do you know God is judging you for your wrongdoing if you do not know what law you are breaking? We're not talking about man-made law. We're talking about the laws that come from the Creator, the covenant that was given to the ancestors of our people. That's why when you look right here, this Amos 3 and 2, right? The Father said right here, he said, you only have I known of all the founders of the earth, therefore I will punish you for all your iniquities. Our people has constantly been killed in this world. From the four corners of the earth, you see our people has been abused, has been threatened, has been at the bottom of the barrel. Everything that you read in Deuteronomy 28 is what's going on with our people. And why these curses are upon our people, because the thing is this, if you do not know the law, how can you come back to the law if you don't know the law? A lot of people don't like to study the law. They disregard the law. When they hear the law, they turn their ear away from it. That's what he said in Proverbs 28 and 9. He who turns his ear from hearing the law, even his prayer shall become an abomination. Understand this, brothers and sisters. Well, a lot of people who say that they follow the laws of the Creator and trying to be obedient to the Father, they don't show it in no way, no form, no fashion, because the Father tells you to turn back to the covenant. He tells you to turn back to the laws. But the thing is this, it's only laws that was permitted for Israel to keep while they was in the land of their captives. That's why when you read about Ezekiel 18, he tells you about not walking in the ways of your father, not doing usury towards your brothers or sisters, by helping your brothers and sisters. You see what I'm saying? Not lying with your woman while she's on her cycle. All that. These is everything. When you read up in Ezekiel 18, read all the laws where he's telling you what you should not be doing while you in captivity. That's everything. Okay. Ezekiel 18. See, we know we can't keep the feast days. I'm pretty sure not a lot of people is aware that you cannot keep Sabbath or any feast days in captivity because he said he did away with it. But right here, he said, the word of the Lord came unto me again, saying, what mean ye that ye use this proverb concerning the land of Israel, saying the fathers have eaten sour grapes and the children's teeth are set on edge. As I live, saith the Lord God, ye shall not have occasion any more to use this proverbs in Israel. Behold, all souls are mine. As the soul of the Father, so also the soul of the Son is mine. The soul that sinneth, it shall die. But if a man be just and do that which is lawful and right, and have not eaten up the mountains, neither have lifted up his eyes to the idols of the house of Israel, neither have devoured his neighbor's wife. That's what Exodus 20, verse 17. Thou shalt not cover thy neighbor's house, nor cover thy neighbor's wife, nor his ox or his ass, nor his manservant, nor his maidservant, nor anything that is thy neighbor. That's Exodus 20, verse 17, where I said, thou shalt not cover thy neighbor's wife. That's right there, right? He said about not lifting his eyes up to the idols. We look up into what he said in Exodus 20, thou shalt not make any graven image of anything that's in the heavens above and the earth beneath and the waters under the earth. Thou shalt not bow down to them nor serve them, for I, the Lord, am a jealous God, visiting iniquity of the fathers to the children of the third and fourth generation of those that hate me, and showing mercy to thousands of them that love me and keep my commandment. That's not bowing down to the idols. That's what he's telling you. Anybody over there claiming that we're going to bow down to Christ, you got a problem. You got a problem. Well, they see up in that book of Philippians and they believing that the New Testament is the word of God. Go ahead and bow down to Christ if you want to and watch what happens. Right? He have not given forth upon usury. Deuteronomy 23, verse 19. Not doing usury. Leviticus 25, 38. This is everything about the law was consistent of being in captivity, as helping your brothers and sisters that's in captivity, said that the poor being amongst you. If thy brother be waxing poor and falling into decay with thee, thou shalt relieve him, ye though he be a stranger or sojourner, that he may live with thee. Right? Take thou no usury upon him, nor increase of thy victuals, right? He said, thou shalt not give him money upon usury, nor lend him victuals upon increase. But fear the Lord thy God. He said, I am the Lord thy God, have brought you out of the land of Egypt and to give you the land of Canaan and to be your God. This is what he said in Leviticus 25, 35 through 38. You're supposed to help your brother and sister even though we in captivity. We're supposed to reach for it. That's a law. Deuteronomy 23 and 19. We are supposed to do usury upon our brothers and sisters. You see what I'm saying? When he tell you not sleeping with your wife upon her flowers, you see that in Leviticus. I think that's Leviticus 20. Let me get this right. Leviticus 20. Let me see. I think it's Leviticus 15. And if a woman have an issue and her issues of flesh be blood, she shall be put apart 7 days, and whosoever toucheth her shall be unclean. And everything that she lieth upon in her separation shall be unclean. Everything also that she sitteth upon shall be unclean. I think I'm gonna get back with it. I'm gonna find it for you. Every bed whereon he lieth that have an issue, it is unclean, and everything whereon he sitteth shall be unclean. Leviticus 12. Watch this. Okay, Leviticus 15, verse 33. That's the law right there. Leviticus 15, verse 33. And of her, that this is the law of him that have an issue, and of him whose seed go from here and is defiled with therewith. And of her that is of sick her flowers, and of him that have an issue of the man and of the woman, of him that lieth with her that is unclean. So this is why here, this is a law. You said what scripture says that we are to help our brothers in captivity that's leading them to the truth? This is Leviticus 25, 35 to 38, right? Here you go, Sharon. It says in Leviticus 25, 35 to 38, said, and if thy brother be waxing poor and fallen in decay with thee, then thou shalt relieve him, ye though he be a stranger or a sojourner, that he may live with thee. Take thou no usury of him or increase, but fear thy God, that thy brother may live with thee. Thou shalt not give him thy money upon usury, nor lend him thy victuals for increase. I am the Lord your God, which brought you forth out of the land of Egypt to give you the land of Canaan and to be your God. And if thy brother that dwelleth in thee be waxing poor, and ye be sold unto thee, thou shalt not compel him to serve as a bondservant. This is basic. We all suffer from, and that's true. But then, according to the law, we're supposed to come together as a community and keep the laws that's permitted for us to be in this captivity. Because when you look at this in Leviticus 26, 42 or 46, if they shall confess their iniquity and the iniquity of their fathers and their trespass, what they trespass against me, and that also they have walked contrary unto me, and I have also walked. If you say you understood that in the land, why is it where we was poor? Where was we poor at? Where were people poor at in the land? Because when you look at the story about Nabal had money. In 1 Samuel 25, he had money. When you see what happened with Abraham and Lot, the Father blessed them. So you show me. No, don't go there. Hold on. You show me when they was in the land that our people was poor when they was in the land. That's what I want to see. Because it says Nabal had great wealth in the 1 Samuel 25. He was rich. When they was given their land, they was given wealth. This 1 Samuel 25, right? Now you tell me, when they was in the land, was they poor? These are the poor in the land of Zephaniah 3 and 12. Okay, come on. Zephaniah 3 and 12. My God. Okay, Zephaniah, you said 3 verse 12. You said, I will also leave in the midst of thee an afflicted and poor people, and they shall trust in the name of the Lord. The remnant of Israel shall not do iniquity or speak lies, neither shall a deceitful tongue be found in their mouth, for they shall feed and lie down, and none shall make them afraid. Sing, O daughter of Zion, O Israel, be glad and rejoice with all thy heart, O daughter of Jerusalem. The Lord hath taken away thy judgment. He hath cast out thy enemy, the King of Israel. Even the Lord is in the midst of thee. Thou shalt not see evil any more in that day. Let me read from the beginning. Okay. Woe to her that is filthy and polluted, to the oppressing city. She obeyed not the voice, she received not correction. Now check this out. Listen to what you're saying, Sharon, right here. It says she obeyed not the voice. Now listen to what he was saying while he was in the land. He said, woe to her that is filthy and polluted, to the oppressing city. Now, if you read the book of Zephaniah, Zephaniah was around the time that Josiah was king, right? And you read Zephaniah, right? This is timestamp right here. The words of the Lord which came unto Zephaniah, the son of Cushai, the son of Gedaliah, the son of Amariah, the son of Hezekiah, in the days of Josiah, the son of Amon, king of Judah. Now check this out. When they was in the land, you right, they was in the land, but check this out. They was doing wickedly. And then you see, hold on. He says, they was doing wickedly right there. And you notice the prophecy came that Israel was going to go into captivity in Babylon. Because you know, after Jehoahaz, it was who became king. Zedekiah became king. Jehoahaz was taken to Egypt, and that's where he died at. He was taken by King Necho, who was an Egyptian, right? He said, she obeyed not the voice, she received not correction, she trust not in the Lord, she drew not near to her God. Her princes with her are roaring lions, her judges are evening wolves, they know not the bones till the morrow. Her prophets are lights and treacherous person, her priests have polluted the sanctuary, they have done violence to the law. The just Lord is in the midst thereof. He will not do iniquity every morning, do he bring his judgment to light. He faileth not, but the unjust knoweth no shame. I have cut off the nations their towers. Now listen to what you just said. You said they were poor when they was in the land, right? Now when you read further on right here, the Father said, I have cut off the nations, their towers are desolate, I have made their streets waste, that none passes by. Okay, their cities are destroyed, so that there is no man, that there is none inhabitant. I said, surely thou wilt fear me, thou wilt receive instruction. Okay, so the Father's bringing judgment on the nations. Therefore wait ye upon me, saith the Lord, until the day that I rise up to the prey. For my determination is gather the nation, that I may assemble the kingdom to pour upon them my indignation. So you said in Zephaniah 3 and 12 said they was poor while they was in the land. And right here, the Father said, I will cut off the nation. So where was Zephaniah when the Father was talking about cutting off the nations, Sharon? Where was they at? Because when you read Zephaniah 3, it's talking about a nation that's in power. Because he said, I will cut off the nations, their towers. We must all seek the Most High. We already know that. But who's doing that? We talking about Zephaniah 3 and 12, where you said they was poor in the land. And right here, the Father said he's about to bring judgment on the nations in Zephaniah 3 and 6. So was they in the land when it was going on, or was they not? Isaiah, let me see Isaiah 14 and 32. Isaiah 14 and 32, what shall one then answer the messenger of the nation, that the Lord hath found Zion, and the poor of his people shall trust in it? Now check this out. I'm finna read from the top in Isaiah 14, because you know Isaiah 14 is also a prophecy. Isaiah 14, for the Lord will have mercy on Jacob, and will yet choose Israel, and set them in their own land. And the stranger shall be joined with them, and they shall cleave to the house of Jacob. And the people shall take them and bring them to the place, and the house of Israel shall possess them in the land of the Lord for servants and handmaids. And they shall take them captives, whose captives they were, and they shall rule over their oppressor. And it shall come to pass in the day that the Lord shall give thee rest from thy sorrow, and from thy fear, and from thy hard bondage, wherein thou wast made to serve, that thou shalt take up this proverb against the king of Babylon and say, so right here, Isaiah 14, they not in the land. This is Babylon. So when you read Isaiah 14 and 32, they not in the land. This is when they're in the land of Babylon. They was poor in the land of Babylon. Even in Zephaniah 3 and 12, what you talking about, the Father's talking about the Father bringing judgment upon the nations in Zephaniah 3 and 6. So you tell me, those two scriptures that you brought out, if you read from the beginning, it said these people are in captivity. Even if you look up in, we could go into, I'm going to show you Nehemiah 5 and 5. Let's go read Nehemiah. And this about Nehemiah was helping his people while they was coming out of Babylon. Let me see Nehemiah 5. I get that. I get that. But the ones that you talking about, Zephaniah 3 and 12, Isaiah 14 is about Babylon being cut off. That's a judgment. That's a prophecy about Babylon. So Isaiah 14 and 32, they not in the land being poor. They in Babylon. Because if you read, it's talking about a rest from bondage. It's the title of that chapter. And you go further on, it talks about Babylon to be cut off. That's in Isaiah 14. So if you read Isaiah 14, what you talking about 32, they not in Jerusalem. They in Babylon. That's what that is about. So they was poor in the land of Babylon. That's why I say you just can't read no one scripture and think that that's what it's talking about. You got to read in context. When it talks about this, it's talking about Babylon bringing judgment upon Babylon in Isaiah 14. And it's giving prophecy about the return of Israel coming from Babylon. Zephaniah 3 is during the time that Zephaniah was once Josiah, right? Because if you look at the time stamps, okay, Zephaniah was during the time of Josiah. And then you see Jeremiah prophesied about Israel going into captivity in Babylon. Zephaniah was one of the prophets that went into captivity. You see, Habakkuk was a prophet that went into captivity in Babylon. Who else? Zechariah was a prophet that was in Babylon. Haggai was a prophet that was in Babylon also. So these people right here we talking about, they made our people poor. When you look up in Isaiah 14, what you reading about, that's giving judgment. That's a prophecy that's given to Babylon. So Israel is not, Isaiah 14 and 32 is not talking about Israel that was poor in the land. That ain't the case. But back to what we was talking about the title of this video is talking about the law, where he talks about doing the laws about witchcraft. You're talking about the prophecy where the Father said he's going to do away with all witchcraft, sorcery, necromancers, and so forth. But I want to show that in the time that Moses was bringing Israel out of Egypt, that the Egyptians was also doing magic, where he's talking about they was doing Exodus 7, 11 and through 13. And it says, and Pharaoh also called the wise men and the sorcerers, now the magicians of Egypt. They also did in like manner with their enchantments, for they did cast every man his rod, and they became serpents, but Aaron's rod swallowed them up, their rods. And he hardened Pharaoh's heart. He hearkened not unto them as the Lord has said. So you could see right here that the Egyptians was doing sorcery in the land. Not only was they doing it, but you see this also in Daniel's 2, that even Babylon was doing the same thing what Egypt was doing. And this is why the Father said he was going to cut off all the idols, sorcery, witchcraft, and so forth, what he's talking about. And Deuteronomy 2, I'm going to start right here in verse 9, said, but if you will not make known unto me the dream, this is during the time where Daniel was interpreting Nebuchadnezzar's dream. And it says right here in verse 9, it said, but if ye will not make known unto me the dream, there is but one decree for you, for ye have prepared lying and corrupt words to speak before me till the time be changed. Therefore tell me the dream, and I shall know that ye can show me the interpretations thereof. The Chaldeans answered before the king and said, there is not a man upon the earth that can show the king's matter. Therefore, there is no king, lord, nor ruler that asks such things at any magician or astrologer or Chaldean. So, well, if that's what you say, but Isaiah 14, you read that out of context. Isaiah 14, Israel was not in the land. That was Isaiah 14 was talking about Babylon. So yeah, that was taken out of context. And I'm not going to argue with you, sister. I'm trying to give information. That's it. If you want to say you weren't taken out of context, you can read the whole entire chapter. You just gave me one verse. And it says right here in Daniel's 2, Daniel 2, the Babylons had magicians just as well. So Deuteronomy 15 and 11 is talking about them in the land. But when you talk about Isaiah 14 and Zephaniah, they not in the land. So, I mean, like I said, there's alternatives. I give you Deuteronomy 15, verse 11, but you ain't talking about when it comes down to Isaiah 14, you supposed to have been read that from the top, sister, in order to get the understanding. You brought Isaiah 14 and 32 talks about the poor, but that's talking about judgment against Babylon in Isaiah 14. The title of Isaiah 14 is Babylon being cut off. So how can you bring Isaiah 14 and 32 to the table when they in the land of Babylon? That's Isaiah prophecy against Babylon. You say I study all the time. I don't read out of context. So I'm going to tell you this, right? And I'm going to say this with everybody right here. When me come down to me, I can admit when I'm wrong about something. And I'm a man because for one, I'm not gonna have no pride. Because the Father said in Proverbs 16, he said, a man with pride, he said he shall fall. So the thing is, I'm not finna sit over here and give you no wrong information and to sit back and make myself look like I'm right. You see what I'm saying? I can admit that. And this is the problem that we people have. Like you said, you study all the time. Sister, I study this book. I read this book. I do the same thing what you do. I wrote this book. All 39 books out of Old Testament, I wrote by hand. It took me 6.5 years to write all this. I wrote this, I read this, and I studied it. So you ain't the only one who studied this. I studied this just as well as you. But the thing about me, what the Father tells me, I'm gonna humble myself. If I'm wrong, I'm gonna say I'm wrong. Now again, I told you Deuteronomy 15 talks about the poor being in the land. But you ain't gonna admit that Isaiah 14 was talking about judgment against Babylon. Zephaniah was around the time of Josiah. It's talking about when he prophesied about them going into captivity in Babylon. If you read Zephaniah 3 and 6, why is the Father talking about judging the nations that's coming against Israel? So with those two verses right there, you got to go back and read that from the top. So what is that? Because you saying, cursed be the man that trusts in man, make flesh his arm, and whose heart depart from the law, right? So the thing is this, a lot of people take the things out of context, right? You know what be tripping me out about people? People quote scriptures and don't understand what it's talking about. I never told you to trust in me, but it tells you in Deuteronomy 18, right? This Deuteronomy 18 says you want to go there with with Jeremiah 17 and 5, right? This Deuteronomy 18, right? And this is what the Father says. I'm going to start at 18. The Father said, I will raise them up a prophet from among their brethren like unto thee, and I will put my words in his mouth, and he shall speak unto them all that I shall command him. And it shall come to pass that whosoever will not hearken unto my words, which he shall speak in my name, I will require of thee. But the prophet which shall presume to speak a word in my name, which I have not commanded him to speak, or that shall speak in the name of other gods, even that prophet shall die. And if thou shalt say in thy heart, How shall we know the word which the Lord have not spoken? When a prophet speak in the name of the Lord, if the thing follow not, nor come to pass that the thing which the Lord has spoken, this was supposed to be for the prophet. Now, with me being a Hebrew Israelite, I'm not a prophet. But he tell you anybody that speaks the words of the Creator, he tells you that you're supposed to speak thus saith the Lord. Regardless, like I said, I have no problem with there being poor in the land. You just showed Deuteronomy 15. That was the only thing that you showed. So what is the problem that you know what I'm saying that you want to just combat just Deuteronomy 15? Now you tell me this. If I can acknowledge you about Deuteronomy 15, can you go back and read Isaiah 14 from the top and say whether you were right or wrong about quoting Isaiah 14, verse 32, or Zephaniah 3, verse 12, and read from the top, the very first verse. And see, that's what I do. I'm not no one scripture reader. I read according to thus saith the Lord from context to get the whole perspective of what's being said with the word. You're not going to sit up here and just give me one scripture and think that that's what is that's going to make everything relevant. Because the thing is, I done did debates. I've seen people just give you one scripture and say, okay, I proved my point. No, you got to read things in context. You got to read from the top. When the Father say he declared everything from the beginning, I'm going to start from verse 1 and I'm going to read to what the context is, what the point that's trying to be made. So you ain't going to never give me no one scripture and tell me Isaiah 14 and 32 is about the poor. That's the only thing it is, sister. Like I said, we got to be men and women about this. If we can't get through this for ourselves being right with one another as brothers and sisters, we ain't gonna never come together. I agree with you about Deuteronomy 15. Deuteronomy 15 talks about the year of release, which is the Jubilee in Leviticus 25. I don't got no problem with that. That's what I'm gonna do. I'm trying to get my soul saved. I'm not finna lie to no brother, no sister after everything I've lived and I've been through. I'm trying to get my life right with God. And my thing is, if I can help a brother or sister, I'm cool with that. If I can't, then so be it. You see what I'm saying? I'm trying to get my soul saved. I don't want Isaiah 66 and 24 for my carcass to be burnt in the fire. I don't want that. I want to live again according to Deuteronomy 30:19. So if anything that I may say that went against scripture, I will apologize for it. But like you said, sister, like you say, you study this. I studied it just as well as you studied it also. So I'm no different from you. I wrote this book, all 39 books, Genesis through Malachi, I wrote by hand. I wrote all the laws according to instruction to the laws and to the testimonies. I wrote these things. I studied these things. And I'm not saying that it makes me a great man, but it makes me a man that want to persevere, that want to be right with God, showing that I want my soul saved. And if whatever I got to do to be right with the Father, that's exactly what I'm going to do. That what brought me to understand, because for one, when I started writing all these books, God showed me things that what other people had never seen. And I thank God for that. I'm still working on myself, trying to get my soul saved. I'm a man just like you was a woman and everybody else. And until everybody can stop being powerful and stop trying to be all flexing like we all know more than the other, we're going to continue to have problems. But that's the thing, is this is why we can't come together, because the thing is we got people so powerful that don't know how to admit when they're wrong. And I'm not talking about you, Sharon, because you already told me about what you just said. So I'm just get this right. I'm not talking about you. This is for brothers and sisters that I have encountered, not on here on StreamYard, but in other places that they cannot admit when they're wrong. And this is why we can't come together, because these people that I've encountered, I've been known to be around, will never accept that they're wrong. And we cannot build together. We cannot fellowship together. Why? Because it's too much pride in themselves. That's why we can't come together. We will never come together like that. But he said we ain't gonna see eye to eye until we get into the land of Isaiah 52:8 anyway. So I mean, people still gonna speak against the word. But see, the thing is this: when we get over there in that wilderness and people gonna get to talking they mess, what they gonna talk, that's when the slaughtering began. When you get in the wilderness, that's when the slaughter began. So people can sit out here right now, you doing your thing. People's up here, they being boastful. They over here like they use knowledge for sportsmanship and try to confound people and think they doing something. The Father said, when you fast and pray, never use your word to be heard. Not for sports. Sister, and one thing you can't never call yourself no prophetess. I would never even do that. Job, this what Job said. This up in Job 32, right? Job 32. He said, let me not, I pray you, accept any man's person, neither let me give flattering titles unto men, for I know not to give flattering titles. In so doing, my maker will soon take me away. So you calling yourself a prophetess, if the Father didn't appoint you to be a prophetess, you got a problem on your hand. You really do. So how is you a prophetess? Isaiah 3. I've been giving you my email. You haven't never got in touch with me. I try to tell you Isaiah 3, right here says, for behold, the Lord of hosts, do take away from Jerusalem and from Judah the state and the staff, the whole state of bread and the whole state of water, the mighty men and the men of war, the judge and the prophet, and the prudent and the ancient. So he let you know, Father say he did away with prophets. In this captivity, there are no prophets, none whatsoever. You can read that in Ezekiel 12:24-28. And when people don't call themselves, y'all gotta stop with these titles that y'all giving yourself. Ezekiel He said, for there shall be no more any vain vision nor flattering divination within the house of Israel. For I am the Lord, I will speak, and the words that I shall speak shall come to pass. There shall be no more prolonged, for in your days, O rebellious house, will I say the word and will perform it, said the Lord God. Again, the words of the Lord came to me, saying, Son of man, behold, they of the house of Israel say the vision he sees for many days to come, and he prophesied of the times that are far off. Therefore say unto them, thus saith the Lord God, there shall none of my words be prolonged any more, But the word which I have spoken shall be done, saith the Lord. Ain't no prophets here in the third and the fourth beast. None whatsoever. So if you calling yourself a prophetess, you got a problem, sister. And that means you're going to have to answer to the Creator for that. Ain't no way in the world I'm going to sit up and call myself a prophet, knowing that God, the Father, said he did away with people with given titles. You could say that the Most High told you that back in July 2017 if you want to. But the Father said he did away with the prophets in Isaiah 3. Ain't no way in the world you going to sit up and tell me that you a prophetess. And the Father, have you fasted and prayed? Well, he said, well, this Isaiah 58, right? Isaiah 58, cry aloud, spare not, lift up thy voice like a trumpet, and show my people their transgression, and the house of Jacob their sins. Yet they seek me daily and delight to know my ways as a nation that did righteousness and forsook not the ordinance of their God. They ask of me the ordinance of justice. They take delight in approaching to God. Wherefore have we fast, right? Say they and thou see not, wherefore have we afflicted our soul, and thou takest no knowledge. Behold, in the days of your fast ye find pleasure and exact all your labor. Behold, ye fast from strife and debate, and to smite with the fist of wickedness. Ye shall not fast as you do this day, to make your voice to be heard or high. Is it such a fast that I have chosen a day for a man to afflict his soul, is to bow down his head as a bull rushing to spread sackcloth and ash under him? Without call this the fast and an acceptable day to the Lord? Is not this the fast that I have chosen, to loose the bands of wickedness, to undo the heavy burdens, and to let the oppressed go free, that ye break every yoke? Is it not to deal thy bread to the hungry, and that thou bring the poor that are cast out to the house, when thou seest the naked, and that thou cover him, and that thou hide not thyself from thy own flesh? Then shall thy light break forth as the morning, and thy health shall spring forth speedily, and thy righteousness shall go forth before thee. The glory of the Lord shall be thy reward. Then shalt thou call, and the Lord shall answer. Thou shalt cry, and he shall say, here I am. Now, if the Father spoke to you in 2017, right here in Isaiah 58 and 9, he said, then shalt thou call, and the Lord shall answer. Thou shalt cry, and he shall say, here I am. If thou take away from the midst of thee the yoke, and putting forth the finger and speaking vanity, if thou draw out the souls to the hungry and satisfy the afflicted soul, then shalt thou light rise in obscurity, and thy darkness be as the noonday. And as the Lord shall guide thee continually, and satisfy thy soul in drought, and make fat bones, and thou shalt be like the water garden, and like as a spring of water whose water fail not. And they that shall be of thee shall build the old ways replace. Now, if that was the case that the Father spoke to you, we supposed to be up out of here. We supposed to be in our land rebuilding. So for people to go around here and say that the Father spoke to them, we still here. We still here. And this is why I have a problem with people call themselves, giving themselves a title. You claim to be a prophetess, knowing that the Father didn't call you to be a prophetess. He told Abraham he was a prophet in Genesis 20 and 7. Aaron was a prophet, what? In Exodus 7 and 1. Jeremiah was a prophet in what? Jeremiah 1. Isaiah was a prophet. Ezekiel was a prophet. Amos was a prophet in Amos 7 and 14. These are the people that he claimed to be a prophet. So how you going to sit up there and say that you are a prophetess and we still stuck here? I'm not arguing about anything. I have a problem with people that claim themselves to be like the Father spoke to them and gave them a title. But if you was a prophetess, Deborah was a prophet that judged Israel. What laws that Israel break that you're supposed to be judging the nation? Because he said David is supposed to be judging us. And see, this was the problem is because you got these camps over here, people talking about their captains, people going around here talking about their priests. He said he did away with the priests. He said we ain't gonna be captains until we get up into the wilderness. Everything's gonna take place over in the land. When you read about the Greco-Roman captivity, there is no prophet or prophetess in this captivity. Stop playing. Stop playing. So that's one thing that we ain't gonna do. Now, if you're gonna be real with the word, be real with the word. I don't see your number. Yeah. But I mean, come on, man. We got to be real with this stuff. It's bad enough that we got camps out here over there, people that claiming to have a title. These camps over here taking men's wives and taking them for themselves and having sex with other men's wives in these camps. Are you serious? They gonna tell a man that since I'm in a position of authority and I'm higher than you, you no longer can have your wife. This man can have sex with your wife. Now let's be real. And these what the camps is doing. So I'm just saying like this, brothers and sisters, right here. Job 32, verse 21 and 22. Hey, y'all better stop playing. Y'all better stop playing. Because the Father spoke to you, sister. Hey, we still here. We supposed to be, he said he's supposed to be loose the yoke from off our neck. If you're a prophetess, hey, I'm Tupac. Like, come on. We can't go through all this. Now, if you want to be right, and we going to congregate and we going to fellowship, we going to fellowship in righteousness. And it's thus said the Lord. I had another sister said the same old goofy stuff. She was a prophetess. Your name ain't nowhere in this book. Nowhere in this book. And you're going to give yourself a title and say that the Father is using you to do something ignorant. Sister Dawn, you done messed up already. I said, you know, I mean, come on, like, man, that you, and we supposed to be gone. Do you hear what Isaiah 58 say? Did you read what Isaiah 58 said in verse 9? He said, when you fast and pray and be obedient to his law, he said you will call unto him and he will say, here I am. And he will loose the yokes from off of your necks. He will return you to the land and you will be called the repairers of breaches that we're supposed to go and rebuild the land. That's not play games. Because that's offensive to me. That's like insulting my intelligence. I don't like stuff like that. You got camps misleading people. That's what we just read in Deuteronomy what? 13. Deuteronomy 13.
How was you responsible for misleading?
So, I mean, like you said, if you want to claim and give yourself that title, You got to deal with the Father. Hey, Job 32, verse 21 and 22. Hey, people out here giving themselves titles, claiming to be certain things that they not. You got to deal with that, not me. I'm not taking no title that's not given to me by the Father. None whatsoever. He chose David to be a king. He chose Saul to be a king. And David, descendant after him, sat on the throne. Those was the people that he chose to be kings. When he talks about the prophets, you see Abraham was called a prophet in Genesis 20 and 7. Aaron was a prophet in what he said in Exodus 7 and 1. Moses was a prophet. Come on, man, let's be real. Let's be real. If we truly about this word, hey, you say you read this and you study this, ain't no way in the world you should be claiming yourself to be a prophet. No way in the world. Now, if you read this and you study this like you say you do, I even know not to do that. I got this number. Check this number down. Because like we gotta be real with this, man. We this is why we cannot come from under these people, because we have people will say such a thing. The prophecy has already been given through the prophets already. That's why when you read in Jeremiah 26, he told you Israel did not hearken unto his prophets. The same thing up in Zechariah 7. We talking about the prophets of old. We don't have no prophets here in this day and time. So people, please stop calling yourself things that the Father did not give you. Like, we gotta be real with this. And this is why we're gonna stay in the same situation we in, because people don't want to listen. You over here claiming you something like you said, your name not in this book. What did he call you to do? He said David was to come to bring judgment in the world. He tell you about the children of Zadok being ministers unto him. They say that I am of the prophets, my people from the system. I got a genealogy, got a DNA, say I'm from Nigeria. Well, you think I'm finna claim to be a prophet? Like, let's be real. Stop. You say they say that I am of the prophets, right? Okay, then you quote that scripture that what you said in Jeremiah 17 and 5 right back at you. Thus said the Lord, cursed be to men that trust in man and make flesh his arm, and whose whole heart depart from the Lord. You said what they said. You didn't say what God said. Now let's be real. You just said they say that I'm of the prophets. Who told you this? Now go throw Jeremiah 17 and 5 back at yourself, since you throw that at me. I'm a descendant of Israel. I would never claim anything that the Father has not given me. No, not one time. My name is not in this book. He said the prophets are all, he said in Isaiah 24 and 23, I will sit with my ancients gloriously. Now let's be real. Right, people gotta stop playing, man.
People called you, but they say that you were certain. What was that?
Talking about calling me an angel and so forth.
Saying I'm not taking.
I'm not taking no credit. The Father didn't give me that. No, I'm not taking that. I appreciate it, but I'm not finna take it. I'm not finna get my soul burned in hell. and the Father didn't tell me who I was. He told me I was an Israelite. That was it. And he told me to come back to the law. I studied laws and prophecy, just what the Father commanded me to do.
For us all to do.
Right. Well, I'm speaking on my behalf because the fact is, don't everybody do this.
Yeah,
I took the initiative. Like he said in Deuteronomy 6 and 9, I wrote this book. It took me how long to write this book?
6 years. Yeah. Been a while.
It took me 6.5 years to write this book.
Yeah, been a while.
I have 47 binders from Genesis to Malachi. I study this just like you do.
About 10,000 folders. I found one. Judges 10, 11 to 14.
Mm-hmm. My job is to get my house in order, and like he said, for our house to be at peace. When me and my wife study these laws, we could live under the covenant. We could be in peace. We don't have to argue. We don't have to fight. That's the whole thing. That's the whole point of the covenant. He said his covenant is a covenant of peace. And it's very important to study the laws. Now, if you haven't studied the law, what prophet it is that don't study law? How can anybody be a prophet that don't study law? That what got me. Sister, you keep telling me 2017. I had a brother told me in 2009 that he was supposed to have been a king. Like, let's be real. Come on. You got everybody saying something. 2017, 2009, 2000. What? That's what I'm talking about. 2009.
He was King David.
No, he didn't say he was. He said he was going to be the person that was going to deliver us out of the land. That's what he said. And I'm just saying, you making yourself no different than the other. Like, come on, man. You got people just like you went and confronted a dude up in here that went and said that he was King David. You got up in this behind about him saying something. Now you turn around, you doing the same thing he was doing. Like, come on, man, let's be real. No, it was a dude that came up on here
a while back.
Yeah.
I was in here, but now I think I remember that.
Yeah, you came up in here, and he claimed he was going around talking about he was King David. Like, I'm gonna just say this, it's like this, me. I'm not no fool. I study law. I study prophecy. I study prophecy just as well as I study law. I'm not no fool, so I ain't finna sit up here and let nobody tell me no any old thing. I know the Father is watching us, and I know He's judging us. But I'm not sitting over here claiming to be nothing that the Father didn't give me no title to. Not one, and I will never do that. And see, this is what I said. This is what I was telling you about with women. They like, I'm not saying like with her, but certain individuals, they come and try to challenge you about what it is that you study and try to make it like you don't know what you're talking about. I study this. This book speaks alternatives. It tells you about in the land and outside the land. It tells you about good and evil. It tells you about men and women. These are the alternatives. When Barak didn't do what he was supposed to do, he said, Deborah said, well, you ain't finna get this glory this day. I'm gonna say like this. I get what you said. I don't know you. I guarantee you I know what thus said the Lord said. And if the Father say he did away with the prophets, What makes you think that you a prophetess in this Greco-Roman captivity? You tell me. When I just read to you Ezekiel 12:24-28, that he said this word will no longer be prolonged. Now, if you a prophetess, you tell me what the Father's will is right now. Don't come telling me why just because I don't know you. I study the words of God. Now, since just like you said, you study, I've been studying this for 8 years, sister. And the only reason why I mentioned 16.5 years, because I came into the truth about the Old Testament. A year and a half, I was reading the New Testament, which is garbage. Sister, I'm going to say you this, Sharon. I'm going to say it like this. Don't try to convince me. And if you got to try to convince me, it's a problem. So if you talking about you descend from the prophets, hey, only time and tell. So if you over here claiming to be a prophet, as you saying it was told to you, you don't have to convince nobody about who you are. As long as the Father know who he say you are, that's between you and the Father. That ain't between you and me. Just don't come telling me that you a prophetess, because then we gonna have a problem. Now, whatever you said, if you really descend from the prophet, the Father would have made it known to you. He said all these things that are going to take place with us is back in the land. Don't convince me that you a prophetess. You don't got to tell me nothing. If the Father spoke with you, just do what the Father told you to do.
You don't have no light on, everything be known. You would just know. You know everything of the Bible, that word. Everything is to be known. That's what they do. And they all know.
That's the whole point.
Mm-hmm. You don't have to prove nothing. Ain't nothing to prove. It's just like Moses spoke. People knew who David spoke.
The people didn't want to listen to Moses, and the Father had to punish them.
Yeah, but some of them caught on though.
This is
the ones that did know.
The ones that did know. Mm-hmm. Those was the ones that went into the land.
Yeah.
But see, the thing is, when you look, check this out. If you look up in the Babylonian captivity mainly, the book of what? You got the book of Ezra and Nehemiah and the book of Haggai is when they came out of captivity. Zechariah is when they prophesied them coming out of captivity. The book of Isaiah was when Manasseh went into captivity. Mm-hmm. But the book of Ezekiel and Jeremiah is when he prophesied about Israel going into the captivity of Babylon. So the thing is this. Isaiah prophesied about Babylon, but he prophesied about Manasseh had went in. Well, Isaiah prophesied about Daniel and them going in captivity. It mentioned them. But then when it came down to Manasseh, the Father said that Manasseh was going to go into captivity. It was the Syrians that sold Manasseh to Babylon. Isaiah, Ezekiel, and Jeremiah talks about Israel going into captivity in Babylon. The book of Habakkuk is when, in Daniel, is what was going on while they was in captivity in Babylon. Zechariah prophesies about them coming out of captivity. Even Zechariah is when they was in captivity. But when you get to the book of Ezra, Nehemiah, and Haggai, they out of captivity. Ezra was a priest. Nehemiah was a Levite. You got Haggai was a prophet. Zechariah was a prophet. And Habakkuk was a prophet. But Jeremiah and Ezekiel, Sharon, and I'm gonna say this for the last time. Don't convince me about you being a prophetess. You don't got to convince me. So I don't see why you still. We know it's still a bloodline within Israel. That was spoken up about. I think I'm up in Ecclesiastes 4:16. Let me see. Ecclesiastes. You said right here. More about starting the son the place of judgment. No, he says. He said one way. He said there is no end. Okay. There is no end of all the people. Ecclesiastes 4:16. There is no end of all the people, even of all that have been before them. They also have come after, shall not rejoice in him. Surely this also is vanity and vexation. He said there's no end of the people. So I'm not tripping about that. But you're not going to sit up here and tell me you're a prophetess, that you come from a bloodline of prophets. And when the Father make that known to me, by all means, it will be known. So, I mean, I study law just like you should study law. You tell me, if you're a prophetess, what laws do you keep? What laws are we not to keep? What did the Father do away with? He did away with feast days and the Sabbaths, the rituals, the sacrifices, so forth. So, giving praise to the Heavenly Father God, I thank Him for being able to let me to expound on the laws of not involving ourselves into witchcraft and idolatry and sacrifices, what the Father said, what we read according to the laws, what we read. And we also read about the prophecy about the Father saying him doing away with witchcraft and with idols and so forth. And so I give the Father that praise that he is teaching me in Psalms 25. He said he was going to teach us. He said his spirit is in his word in Isaiah 34:16. So with that being said, I thank the Father for teaching me and helping me to be obedient to his word. I still have some things that I have to deal with in order to get right with the Father. I am still learning every day. But the thing is, we can't come together as a community and be right with each other in order to help and support each other according to the law, to keep each other in line about the law, because a lot of people don't study the law. So with that being said, I'd like to give the Father praises. Selah, I thank him. I thank him for letting me be able to give this information to brothers and sisters that do want to know the law and that do want to study the law, that do want to know the prophecies, that do want to study prophecies, that The Father said, we know these things that, you know what I'm saying, this is what we supposed to know. What is the purpose and the will of the Father in the last days? So I give the Father praises, Selah, I thank him. And I like to say, I thank brothers and sisters for listening in up on this video. I appreciate brothers and sisters came upon this platform, and I'm praying and hoping one day we have a brother and sister that wouldn't mind sitting up on the platform and fellowship. And this ain't for combating, this is for understanding, being able to reason one another, that we can come together and form a community and align ourselves with the words of the Father, be obedient to his law, that we could come from this ignorance. And we could come from these people. So, until we meet again, and hopefully I'll be able to get more information and what it is that I study. And like I told you, I don't got no problem with nobody critiquing me. I have no problem. Leviticus 19:17, thou shalt not hate thy brother in thy heart, and anywise rebuke thy neighbor, not suffer sin upon them. I have no problem at all. So I'm out, and I'll talk to you again, hopefully soon, that the Father will let me be able to produce information.